All right, welcome to another episode of Warrior versus Zombie. And I, as always, am excited to introduce another Warrior guest to you, Darin Adams. And I'll do that in just a second. But before we do, let me remind you of why you're here. Success is a journey, it's not a destination. As warriors, we all have a history of ups and downs, wins and losses that are all part of making us who we are up to this point, and they provide a foundation for our path forward. We all battle our inner zombie as well as those in our world. And in each episode, I interview warriors who are aspiring leaders from all walks of life: entrepreneurs, artists, health practitioners, business owners, literally any inspired leader that has a story to tell. These warriors have a cause, they have unique value and a vision that goes generations into the future. And today's guest is no exception. Darin Adams is an awesome warrior. His warrior journey of over 35 years includes TV cameras and news scripts. As award-winning broadcaster, he's done just about everything when it comes to TV. As a lifestyle host, he tracked down celebrities like Martha Stewart and Pat Sajak. As a sports anchor, he tried his hand at rodeo riding on a runaway horse. That sounds pretty fun. As a weather anchor, he drew pictures of animals in the satellite clouds. And as a morning feature reporter, he's eaten crickets and had liposuction performed on him while talking on camera. Now that's got to be a degree of difficulty. I can only imagine. Darin has worked in Kentucky, Montana, Massachusetts, Idaho, and he currently lives in Utah with his wonderful wife and 4 children as a communication and marketing expert who's coached thousands of businesses on how to build connections with their audience. Darin Adams, welcome to Warrior versus Zombie. How's things in Salt Lake City?
They are great in Salt Lake City. Things are good. It's an exciting another day, another opportunity to do great, wonderful things. So I'm not complaining.
Yeah. So your ideal day includes these days. What kind of fun activities are you do during on a Thursday in Salt Lake City?
I try to avoid my wife's to-do list. That's the number one thing I got to avoid. If I can avoid that, then things are good. I coach people around the world, teaching them how to grow their business, how to be more successful. And I'll do that virtually, remotely, on like a Zoom call or a virtual event. I'll travel to events and sometimes do that and coach people in real life. If I'm not doing that, I'm telling you my favorite thing. I'm big into like family games things. I'm like a family game connoisseur, and game nights at our house are all. I think we might have one scheduled tonight. I don't know. I think we have people coming over for games night. So that's my little side passion, is that. But anytime I can be engaging with anyone to be doing something I'm passionate about, that's my ideal kind of a day.
Well, that's pretty fascinating. I'm going to have to collaborate with you after this podcast on game night. My kids are very competitive. I have 5 kids, and family game night is a regular thing. And when we get together, it's usually somebody's wanting to play a game. So maybe you've got some new ideas for me there. Well, that's fascinating. Well, I just learned something new about you right now. So that's great.
By the way, my favorite game, like, there tends to be a game du jour kind of thing, whatever is my favorite one is called Just One. So go get Just One. That's a good game. It's like a team collaborative game. Wait, this podcast all of a sudden took a complete right turn. I had no idea. All of a sudden we're talking about games, but my favorite game right now, Just One. Everybody's working together to try to win. You'll enjoy it.
Just one. Okay.
Just one.
For all my kids that are listening to this podcast, Darin recommends Just One. So don't let me forget that. So they'll replay that back to me, because they all are avid listeners to the podcast. All right, well, let's do this. I want to take a quick break, because when we come back, I want to hear about your story, how you got from where you started. I know I said over 35 years. I think it's a little more than that as far as your warrior journey, but where you started and how you got to where you are today, and then we'll take another break after that. So let's hear a little of for the audio audience, our theme song, It's Not the Getting There, from Ricky Jean Wright, and we'll be right back with Darin Adams and Warrior versus Zombie. All right, we are back, and Darin, game night. I'm excited. So now I got something to take away from this that I can deploy into my ideal day every day. All right, so
Cobra Paw and Happy Salmon, another couple of my favorite games. I'm like a fast game person. If a game takes longer than a couple minutes, I've gotten bored of it. So I'm not a Risk person. I'm not a Settlers Catan. I'm not Monopoly and all that kind of stuff. Okay, sorry, just had to get that out there.
yeah,
So
I got those.
moving.
I got those in my game closet as well. All those long. I can do that, but yeah, these days with the number of things we've got going on, I think our attention span from games kind of has shortened, I think, over the years. But anyway, so tell me your story. How did you get from where you started to where you are today?
How far back do you want to go?
Whatever you want.
I began my career, my professional career in the TV business, and
Okay.
I was always sort of a TV news junkie, and so I loved part of the challenge was I looked kind of young when I graduated from college, and so it was difficult for me to go work in a big market. I had to work in some of the smallest markets there were since I looked like I was about 15, and started in Kalispell, Montana. And one thing I learned was there was a lot to learn in Kalispell, Montana. I wasn't any better than Kalispell, Montana, and I loved Kalispell, Montana, and there were some great people there. And so, starting in a place like that, don't ever go into something thinking like I'm too good for something, I'm better than this, because sort of in the back of my mind, like when they number TV markets, it's like 1 to 150, and I think it gets the biggest is like 220, which is Glendive, Montana. Kalispell doesn't even get numbered; it is that small. But I never thought, I'm better than this. I enjoyed the time I was working there. So there's lesson number one is don't ever think you're better than something that you've got presented to you as a great opportunity. There's something to learn from all that. I went from Kalispell, Montana to Lewiston, Idaho, to Pocatello, Idaho. And when I was in Pocatello, Idaho, I was the sports anchor. We had, now I'm going on a bunch of different tangents I wasn't planning on going, but I'm going to try to run through the warrior journey as quickly as I can here. They hired I was the weekend sports anchor, and they hired a weekend weather person, and they said, the weekend weather person isn't really working out too well. Darin, can you do the weather as well? I'm like, because already there were just two of us. One would do the news. We would both do the news together, and then she would do the weather and I would do the sports. And they said, we just need you to do the weather too. I'm like, wait, that means I'm doing everything. I'm doing the news and I do the weather, then I do the sports. And they said, yeah, I had no experience doing any weather on TV. But it kind of worked out. And within a month, they came and they said, our actual real weatherman's leaving. Could you take his job? And I said, I don't like weather. I don't know anything about weather. I don't have any experience doing weather. And they said, we can pay you more money. Like, hey, it looks like rain, So, so you never know where opportunities are going to present themselves. So be ready for anything that might come your way. From that, I was watching Tonight Show once a long time ago with Johnny Carson, and he had some guest on, and she had potato chips, and they looked like different shapes and characters. And she had this one that looked like Bob Hope, and Johnny Carson played some trick and made her think he was eating her potato chips, and she had a heart attack. Anyway, I thought that's a fun gimmick, and I thought I should have some kind of. I should find shapes in the clouds, in the satellite pictures. So I would freeze the satellite pictures, and I would draw a little picture in the freeze, and it became known as Darin's Doodles, and that became sort of my claim to fame. We had a team come in, a new management came and take over, and they really didn't like Darin's Doodles. They didn't like me. They didn't like a lot of stuff about me, and that was kind of a blow to me for a while. I'm thinking like, wow, maybe I'm in the wrong industry. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I should rethink it, and maybe I should conform to do what they want me to do. And another TV station reached out to me, and they said, we want you to come be our weatherman. So I said, okay, here's some of the stuff I do. I sort of some of this crazy stuff, and I draw pictures and I do that. And I said, so do you want me to not do that? And they said, no, that's exactly why we want you. You are different and you are unique. If we wanted some photocopy of everything else, we'd just go find a photocopy of something else. We want you because you stand out. You're different. You're unusual. It gives people a reason to switch their channel or something. So that's one of the third lessons I learned is own what makes you different, be proud of that, and sort of use that in your and your marketing and your strengths, letting people know how you're different. And the warrior journey took me to a bunch of different places until now. I coach businesses around the world. We can talk a little bit about that a little bit later, how I got into that. But when I go and I speak at events and I talk to entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and small business owners, and part of what I teach them is find what makes you interesting, find what makes you unique, and let people know what that is, and share your content and share your expertise and share your knowledge with people. Be generous with what you can give people so that they know. And if they want Joe Schmo like everybody else, they'll go find Joe Schmo like everybody else. They're going to connect with you because you are different, because you offer something that other people don't have. So use that in your marketing. That's how you stand out in your marketing. That's how you let people know I'm different. So that was a way longer answer than you were planning for how I got in my customer journey, but that's sort of how I ended up where I am now.
So, and that's pretty cool. And like most warriors that I talk to, we're all focused forward. We have things along the journey that become challenging. You hit on a couple of those in this. One was being asked to do things that you didn't think you were going to do. That's often a journey. The other one is, being present and seeing the opportunity, seeing the door that opened, even if it's not the one that you were expecting. The other one that you said was that things weren't working out, which is usually code for, hey, they really didn't like me and I lost my job, or whatever it happens to be. So along the journey, the warriors that are listening to this, we all know that you don't just go through and all of a sudden you're here and you're doing what you're doing today. What kind of challenges, or as we call them, zombies, have you experienced along your journey that you've had to get through?
Yeah, the one time when and it's so odd because like what I do now for the last 10 years is so not what I did TV, but those are the interesting stories. So I'm gonna sort of share some of those. When I was working at the one TV station, the new management came in and they said, we don't want you to talk fast. And maybe you might have noticed I sometimes talk fast. Yeah. We don't want you to move around. And sometimes I move around. And we don't want you to use your hands. We don't want you to, gesture with your hands and stuff. And so as long as you can stand still, and we don't want you to draw pictures in the clouds. As long as you can stand still, as long as you can not move around, as long as you can slow down, as long as you can not do things that make you different from everybody else, then you've got a job. And that's when I realized they really don't want me, because that's what makes me kind of unique. So those are some of the zombies where people don't appreciate. I'm gonna tell you a quick little story, because when I left TV after about however many years I was in TV, 30 years or something like that. And I thought I wanted to be a speaker. So I was going to be a keynote speaker and speak and travel around and motivate and inspire and all that. And then I discovered a company. The company was called Infusionsoft. It's now called Keep. It's the company I work for now. And they had a role for a speaker where this person would go. It is the role that I have now. And they had a role where this person would go and speak and teach people and show them how to use marketing automation to be more successful. And I was sitting in an audience and I said, that's the job that's for me. That's what I want. And I knew instinctively this was what I needed. So I reached out to the company and I knew I was the perfect fit for them. I knew that. I figured I was what they were looking for. So I reached out to them and they said, yeah, we're actually going to hire somebody. We need to hire somebody in the next couple of months. So, yeah. So now I'm thinking, okay, I've got this job coming up. It's going to be perfect. I stopped looking for all speaking jobs, keynote addresses, things that would pay me money, because I thought I've got to be able to be free, that I can work for this company when they're ready for me here in a month or so. Well, a month or so came and there was no job. And I know. And in the meantime, now I have stopped booking speaking engagements because I want to make sure I'm free for them, and nothing. So this is now into December. So I said, hey, how's it going? Yeah, we're still working on stuff, and we just got like a big round of funding. So we're doing something. Okay, I'm still here. Like a month goes by. Still nothing. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, oh yeah, we're expanding. We hired to hire a bunch of people, so we're trying to sort that out. So I'm like, okay, another month goes by. I said, hey, and every month there was something that was preventing them. And I could easily at any point have said, okay, I'm just going to cut bait. I'm going to move on. In fact, my wife said, you got to stop. They are not hiring you. That is never going to turn into anything. You've wasted way too much time. You need to go get a real job. You need to start booking some engagements and quit waiting for them. Then we finally made it to February. So now it's been like 6 months, most of that without me having any income because I'm just waiting for them to hire me. And so they finally did some job interviews and then they hired somebody else. Like, well, what? How does that work? You've been promising me this job for like 6 months. So then a new manager takes over the team and he's like, oh yeah, I still want to hire you. Literally, I had to keep at it for another 4 months. Let's see, February, March, April, May, June, like even 4 to 5 months. But I never gave up, and I was tenacious, and I would email them multiple times a week, whoever this new boss was, and say, hey, here's some information that you might find. Here's something I can help. Here's some ways I can contribute. Here's something you might not have thought of. What are some books I should be reading to better prepare myself for this moment when it happens? And eventually, so finally, after another 4 or 5 months, they finally said yes. And the main reason they said yes was because I was tenacious and I didn't give up and I kept at it. And so often when the zombies start coming, then we say, oh, I'm going to give up. Or there's got to be an easier way, and I've got to find some way to get away from the zombies, rather than just taking them on head on and just saying, yeah, I'm going to overcome this. The same principles that I teach people now in marketing is basically do the follow-up, do the automated follow-up, be in touch with people, stay top of mind with them, send more emails, send more texts, make sure people are aware of you. So it's the exact same principle that I used on them for them to hire me. So that's one of the most, that's one of the biggest. Let me tell you one more other quick thing that I think overcomes zombies more than anything else is your passion. And that's like a real passion. There's something inside of all of us that gets us, that makes us feel passion. It's when you start, when you feel sort of excited, like I'm passionate about family games. We were talking about that. All of a sudden I started getting excited and moving my hands around and stuff. I'm passionate about helping other small businesses. I'm passionate about various things. And when you start thinking about those things you're passionate about, the stomach juices start gurgling around. You start getting a little agitated. You start, getting excited about that. Your pulse starts to quicken. If you're thinking about those things, those are the things that you're passionate about. And if you can engage your passion in whatever you're doing, you will be more successful. People can sense it in you and they want to follow you. They want to engage with you. If you're following someone who's a passionate speaker or leader or any role, you want to follow them because you want to be part of the passion. So those were two things. I don't even remember what the question was, but somehow we got on the fact that
it really wasn't a question. Yeah,
use your passion when you're doing stuff.
It really wasn't a question. It was really your story, and you've actually shared a number of warrior nuggets, as we call them, along the way here in terms of what you've learned. I think really where we're at, and what I want to go real quick, is let's land the plane for this segment, and we're going to come back. And I want to talk about where you are today, because I kind of got the picture. And obviously, this is something that you're really passionate about. And I think the lesson there is we all need to be engaged with our vision and the unique value we bring and why we're on the planet. If you have those things aligned, which is what we're going to talk about in the next segment, it's magic that happens there. But again, it's all about the follow-up and stuff. And I do want to talk about Keep, and I want to talk about where you're at. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back, and we'll talk about your vision with Darin Adams and Warrior versus Zombie. All right, we are back. And Darin, that was a very high energy and exciting story. And I'm sure having a lot of story myself, that's the side effect and the benefit of age. There's so many things we could cover, and our journey is one. And you have identified a number zombies that you've overcome. So let me ask you this. Why are you doing what you're doing today? I picked up some of that in your story, and what kind of value I can see some of that. And then, what's the impact you're hoping to have? So let's talk about that.
Yeah. By the way, I love the comment earlier said, let's land the plane for a second, which basically means the plane is out of control, Darin. You don't know how to fly this plane. Give me the controls and I'm going to land this for a second. So I'm glad we've landed it and we're having another flyby here. One of the things that I learned when I was in the TV industry was helping people get their messaging and their marketing. Some of the shows that I worked on, is a phrase like something's called pay to play. So someone would pay a fee to come on TV for a segment, and we would, interview them on a lifestyle type show. And, it's like a local chiropractor or a jewelry designer or a cake decorator or something. And part of my job was meeting with them ahead of time so that we could say, we have 3.5 minutes. We want to get your message out the best way we can. We want to have a strong call to action. We want to let people do X, Y, Z. Oh, little sidetrack. You're like, no, not another sidetrack. Please, Darin, not another sidetrack. There was a person who came on once and we had worked with them and talked to them. Okay, here's the segment. Here are the questions we're going to ask. Here's whatever. So he came on and he sat down and we said, hey, here's Bob here, Bob. And we asked the questions, and Bob, for some reason, didn't seem to understand that we were doing the segment. And he just was sort of just being glib and not even answering anything. And we went through the whole 30 minutes. And then we said, okay, we'll be back. And then in the commercial, we said, okay, thanks, Bob. He said, well, when are we going to do the segment? He said, that was it, Bob. That was it. You just blew it. You just blew your 3.5 minutes and didn't do anything that you were supposed to do. And he was like stunned. He just paid a bunch of money. And anyway, a little sidetrack. But the point is, we would coach them ahead of time and say, what's the best way to get your marketing out, the best way to communicate with people, the best way to identify with your customers. So when I left TV, I thought I really want to continue to help people do that in that same vein. And I ran into, of course, from my experience, knew there were lots of entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and small business owners who were looking for that same kind of a thing. So I then used the experience I had to coach them on how to get the right tools and technology to do that same kind of a thing. But instead, of course, doing it on TV, which most people don't do, how to do it through email marketing and things on landing pages and follow-up texts, and having the right tools and technology and tips and techniques so that they could continue to do that. So that's how I sort of went from being crazy weatherman drawing pictures into marketing coach and consultant and teaching people around the world how to do that stuff.
So yeah, that does connect those dots. And I will tell you, so many people miss the fact that I love your story about, missing the window of opportunity to do your 3.5 minutes, because really people, and I find it kind of fascinating because I'm familiar with Infusionsoft, Keep. I know kind of what you're doing. And one of the things I have an aversion to or don't like is some of the automation, because people forget that there's prep. You have to be prepared, and you have to know why you're doing what you're doing, and know the value you're providing, and know what you're trying to accomplish. It's not just an automation. So people get very mechanical, and then most of the automations come at you, and follow-up is great, but they come at you in a very automated fashion, non-human fashion that turns me off. So I'm curious as to how do you bridge that gap as you're talking about, I won't use kind of the disparaging term that used to be associated with Infusionsoft, which was Confusionsoft, for the people, because you had to hire a consultant to actually implement the program, because an individual entrepreneur couldn't do it, and so on and so forth. I can give you all, I mean, I've looked at it. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. So tell me, how do you take what you're doing today and then move it into this world of helping people use the technology to actually get their message out, to accomplish what they're doing, to do what they want to do in business?
Yeah. And by the way, I know the phrase Confusionsoft because I've dealt with a lot of people who had, and when I would go up to someone this was years ago when it was still Infusionsoft and Confusionsoft, and people would say, "Oh, I use Confusionsoft." I'm like, "Oh no, now." But now with newer tech, I mean, that was so 5 years ago or whatever.
Right.
Now with newer technology and new ways to do stuff. Now when I run into someone, they say, "Oh, I use Keep. I love Keep. Keep's so much easier." And so I get that. So that actually is one of the things that's better to me than a payday, is when rather than getting a check in the mail, which I like getting the checks, but I actually like even more when I go to an event. I was just an event in Texas, and this woman came up and she's like, "You know what? I was at an event 6 months ago and I signed up with Keep." And then I'm thinking, "Oh no, what's going to be the experience?" She's like, "I absolutely love it. It is the greatest thing in the world. It allows me to grow my audience." She said, "I didn't even have a business when I got it 6 months ago. I just had a dream. And now I have a community. I've done some virtual events. I've done some webinars. I've done a challenge." She listed all these things she was able to do through automation. So let me give you a couple tips as people are doing that. One is you have to reach out quickly. If I meet you, you've got to make the automation do what you would do naturally. Don't make the automation do what a machine would do. You make it do what you would do. So when you maybe you're speaking at an event, maybe you're doing a webinar, maybe somehow you're engaging with someone, and someone says, "Hey, we should stay in touch. Let's get in touch." Now, a real person would probably later that day send him a text and say, "Hey, yeah, this is Bob, just checking in. I love meeting you. Let's follow up or something." An automation, a machine would say, "This is Darin replying. Here's my calendar link. Book some time with me if you would like to chat more," or something.
Right.
So you make the automation can say anything you want. You make the automation as a text that might go out saying, "Great meeting you. Let's follow up next week," or something like that. When you send emails out, I think this is a common misconception that people do. Because if I'm sending an email out to 1,000 people, I will use different pronouns. I will say, "For all of you that I'm writing this to," or something obviously showing I'm writing it to 1,000 people. But if I want to make it seem like it's a real email, I have to craft that so it's going to one person. So I say, "I know you struggle with blah, blah, blah," or whatever. So I'm using a singular pronoun rather than to all the people. If I'm talking to all the people, as I get that email, I'm like, "Oh, this is just going to a huge, big, giant list." Your emails or text or any communication should make the person think, is this person really writing to me? Is this a real email that they're writing to me? Because it sounds really good. I've gotten emails like that before too, where I'm thinking like, I'm pretty sure this is automated, but this sounds really, really good. And then like do whatever a normal person would do. If the next day there would be another email like, "Hey, I sent you an email yesterday, but I haven't heard back from you yet. I know you're really busy," or something like that. And that even can sound a little automated, but the whole idea is use it like a real person would really speak and really communicate and really connect with someone, and just put that in the automation. Now, supplement that with real stuff. So you don't just use automation, but you can then pop in with a personal text going out to someone in addition to an automated text, so that it's not just one or the other. And then if you can get people guessing, they're like, "Oh, I don't know, is this the real one or is this an automated one? I don't know which one this really is." But that's one of the things. You will never be able to affect everybody that you can affect, have an effect on them, to empower someone, to teach someone, to improve their lives. You will never be able to do that on a one-on-one basis, unless you only want to help 5 people in the world. So the only way you can do that and broaden your reach and really empower more people is through automation. Because I can't send 1,000 one-off emails one by one in a day. I can send 1,000 emails out at once and try to make them as personal as possible. So don't shy away from automation because it might seem impersonal. Make it personal, and then get over the fact that it's automation, because that's the only way you're going to be able to change and affect more people's lives all at once.
So you're brilliant. I love it. And yeah, I agree. There's nothing you said that I would disagree with. And in fact, my own experience, having, hundreds of thousands of connections on all kinds of platforms and that kind of thing, is I'm getting inbound requests all the time. And so it's a journey, as a theme song of this podcast says. You're building a relationship over time. People do business, as I always say, with people they know, like, and trust. The trust is the part that's hard to get to, because that's really where business occurs. And the only way you can do that is to go on that journey. And it's usually one of the things you said, which I think is very powerful, is it's a smaller increments. There are things, it's a more frequency, more real, not just, okay, I've written 3 in the automation and it covers everybody. No, I mean, it's there, and maybe you have to augment. So, and I love that because timing. But let me ask you this. I'm going to shift gears just a little bit. So I know you're working with Keep. I know you have your story and your ability to communicate, and it's really good. What kind of impact in this role, and as you look forward, are you hoping to have? What kind of impact?
I do a few things. I help people on the side doing some speaking consulting and speaking coaching and presentation architecture, that kind of stuff. That's when I can squeeze in extra free time to do things along those lines. The majority of what I do is speaking to people from a perspective of Keep and showing them what they can do. And what I really want to be able to do is help more small businesses be successful, because I know what they struggle with. I know every single one of them struggles to get new leads. And if you're not getting new leads, you're not getting new business. That's like one of the biggest struggles right there. Every single one of them struggles with building the relationship and the following with people. And like you said, the know, like, and trust thing. And if I don't know, like, or trust you, and how can you do that? Every single one of them struggles because they don't have enough hours in the day that they can do all the things that they need to do. So if you can offload some of that into automation, those are all some of the things. When I see somebody signing up for Keep and using the tools and telling me some success stories, that is the greatest thing, because that's exactly what I want to motivate and inspire somebody to do. We're talking about the passion thing. It sort of comes back to that. If people can sense that I'm passionate about that, then they're like, okay, I can do this. I feel like I can do this. I had just a random thought too about the power of stories. People feel passion when you tell them stories, not when you tell them facts. So I can say, new leads means new business. That doesn't mean as much to someone as I say, here's Lisa over here, and she was struggling because she couldn't pay her rent. And so she put out this program, and it's a way for people to enroll, and she teaches them, I don't know, whatever it might be. And she got up on a stage, and she did a virtual event, or she did a webinar, and she got 83 people that signed up. And from those 83 people, 47 of them bought her program, and now they're doing amazing things. But even more amazing is that she now has this income coming in, and she's made a certain, obviously I'm just making this story up, but when I tell that story where people can see new leads means new business, that means is more powerful than if I just say new leads means new business. If I can tell the story of someone who literally goes it, then people can picture themselves. Oh, see, another little random thought. People are motivated when they hear a story of someone who has a problem they can relate to, who did something that they can relate to. So it's a person like them they can relate to, a challenge like them that they're relating to, with a solution that they can envision in their mind. So if you can tell someone a story with those things, someone they can relate to, with a problem they can relate to, with a solution that they can envision them doing, that's what motivates them to action.
That's brilliant. And again, that's keeping people on the journey. Those warriors listening to this will kind of get the thematic thing that you just said, because that's why we do story and then talk about the value and then where we're going, because of just that. As people, they'll listen to you, but they get more engaged with you as a warrior when they understand that you're on a journey and you've had some experience and you've gotten through this. Well, let's do this. I'm going to take a quick break, and we're going to come into, since you like the land the plane, we're going to come into what I call the land the plane segment, which is really, if we take away anything from this discussion, we've covered a lot of stuff. If we take away anything from this podcast, what one or two or three, warriors are always overachievers. What do we take, what do we take away from this? And then I want to tell the audience how to stay in touch. So let's take another quick break, hear a little more Ricky Jean Wright, and it's not to get in there. And we'll be right back with Darin Adams and Warrior versus Zombie. All right, we are back. And Darin, we don't have any problem with energy here. This is great. I love the passion. I love the energy. I love the alignment as always. It's always so fascinating to me when I get introduced to warriors and we realize that, hey, we may not be on exactly the same journey, but we're very aligned. And I love that. So as I said before the break, if we take away anything from this discussion or podcast, what one or two things do you want us to make sure we take away?
Number one thing I want to let people know is people will be engaged when they can feel your passion, when they can feel something. I'll tell you a quick little story. I was working at a TV station, and there was a woman who was coming in for a guest appearance, and she was like our fashion contributor. And so she was supposed to have Holly's favorite fashion find. And so we said, okay, and this is like the latest trend, the hippest, trendiest, whatever. And she's going to unveil it for us. And we said, Holly's, what's your latest? And she said, it's turtlenecks. And it was like, it was like March heading into April. Nobody's thinking about turtlenecks this time of year. And we're like, how can we stop? This segment is not what we're expecting. This is not good for our credibility that we're telling people to go buy turtlenecks. And she's like, no, they were on sale at Old Navy. They're this great verse. And she pulls it out. And she's like, look at all the colors and look at the fabric. It's amazing. You've got to have these turtlenecks, and they're on sale right now. You've got to run to your Old Navy and buy not just one, but buy one in every color and every size. Everybody's got to go get it. Well, we're thinking this is the worst thing ever. It turned out every Old Navy within like 70 miles sold out of turtlenecks within an hour after that segment aired. And it wasn't because of the actual content. It wasn't because people actually needed a turtleneck. It was people felt her passion. And when she's like, I need you to do this. I need you to get up and run to Old Navy and buy these turtlenecks. That's what motivates people to taking action, is feeling passion, getting them to do something. So what I need for everyone to do is realize, how can you let people feel your passion? How can you let them feel what you're about? Because that's what will help you be more successful as you're motivating other people to be successful. If you can let your passion come out, and so people can feel that. Like, hopefully right now during this segment, hopefully in the podcast, you're like, yeah, this guy's totally passionate about stuff. Hopefully you've been able to sense that. So however you might do that, whether it's in real life, standing on a stage, speaking to people, communicating with people and picking them up and carrying them with you. Maybe it's in emails, doing marketing, doing follow-up, engaging with people through a landing page. Let them feel your passion that way. But if you can let them, people always love passion. People are attracted to passion. They want to be part of it. They want to ride the coattails of passion. If you can let them come along with you on your passionate ride, you'll be more successful. So if you're a small business owner, you're a coach, you're a trainer, you're whatever like that, you do that through your marketing, your emails, your text, your landing pages, your automation, all that kind of stuff, but let them feel your passion. They'll be more successful. You'll be more successful.
Wow. Okay. So that's brilliant. I love it. I think too many folks get too mechanical, and I love hearing it from somebody who's focused and on the tools and the delivery, and realizing that until that stuff is all good, but it really is about moving forward in your journey and knowing why you're here and knowing the journey you're on and making sure that you stay inspired by that. And that comes across in everything you do. So I think that's just absolutely brilliant. And
it's like the train, because we're talking about keep. The train is keep. The train's pulling into the station. But what's the train pulling? What's the cargo that it's bringing? That's what you bring. See, now you're getting me too riled up. You got me going too early, too soon, and now I'm totally off the rails here talking about trains. Your content, your information, your help is what's in the cargo of the train, as the train keep then delivers the cargo, the passion to people. So yeah, don't get too caught up with, I just got to have a train pull into the station. The most important thing is, what's the train carrying as the cargo?
Well, and that's brilliant because, and I'm going to ask you the next question, which is, how do we stay in touch? But for the audience, we're going to do a mastermind towards the end of the month. I think it's Friday, I don't even remember the date, but check our show time, and you're going to be on that, and we'll have more time to talk about what's on the train and how to deploy some of this stuff. But tell me, so aside from that, and you're already on the Be Connected platform, and we'll work on making that more useful to you as time goes on. And so I know people can go to Darin, and it's Darin. You should be able to find it's still a relatively small, few 10,000 plus communities, not millions like you have on all the other social media platforms. This is actually social business, so it's more aligned with that. But tell me, how else do we stay in touch? How can we connect with you after this podcast, Darin?
Yeah, I'm just going to give you my email address if people want to get in touch with me. I'd love to be able to help anybody I can. It's Darin, Darin .adams@keep.com. Keep is spelled Keap, not like the regular keep, Keap. So Darin, Darin .adams@keep.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I guess you can connect with me that way too. But yeah, just drop me an email, stay in touch. If there's something I can do to help anybody, I'd love to be able to do whatever I can.
I love it. The thing is, that's one of the reasons for Be Connected. That's one of the reasons why so many people are getting, I've got thousands of connections on LinkedIn, and I've got thousands of connections on Facebook, all these platforms, right? But it's like sitting in the ocean in a lifeboat hollering for somebody to pay attention to you, right? Even if you're dying, it's not going to matter. So that intention of actually giving your email and having somebody reach out to you directly is exactly what I think the warriors that we're talking about need today. So we could go on and on. I can tell our passions align, and we're going, but and we will get another chance, another bite at the apple, as we say, in a few weeks. So I'm looking forward to having you back. Looking forward to, now that you're part of our warrior community, introducing you to others. So Darin, thank you. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Thanks for having me here. It's been a pleasure to be part of it.
Yeah, it's been great. All right. So for those warriors, we're going to land the plane here. Hear the final outro of It's Not the Getting There by Ricky Jean Wright. We'll be back next Thursday, 11 Central, 10 Mountain, like Darin's time. And with another episode and another warrior in Warrior versus Zombie.